I know I am between you and lunch, so I'll try to give some food for thought, and food for thought will be very quick. First of all, thank you, Shiva Partho, for starting this forum. As I said, few years back when you started this, most of you here, I know you may not like it, but we do a thankless job. And if your companies are appreciating what you do more than what they are blaming you for what, I think your company is very matured, first of all. I have, at least in the last 20 years, got a lot more thick-skinned by getting more, kind of complaints that what's not working and why operations or workforce management or people supply chain or talent supply chain, whatever you call it. I think we are in the news for revenue loss. We are in the news for low utilization. We are in the news for something not working. But that's what we deal with, guys. But the good thing is having a forum like this to talk together to peers who kind of share the same grief and same kind of stuff that we do. I think it's a big positive. Thank you so much. I think the function has evolved a lot over last so many years, and very happy to see what Mohit shared. He is kind of using his experience to create a platform which actually, in my mind, uberizes some of the work, and I will talk about my thoughts on what I mean by uberization. Now, having said that, I think a few years back when we had the first in-person launch, I shared a view that our function actually deals with like 5 blind men touching an elephant. And for those of you who have been here for long will relate to it. I think we deal with a scenario where I know the quarter is ending. A lot of you must be under pressure to increase your billability, increase the earnings, increase the, everything, reduce the cost. But what I have seen consistently is our revenue forecast that's given as part of earnings by our CEO will not talk to the resource requirement. Am I right? So we will say either we are growing X% or we are not growing, but you will have a backlog of X thousand or Y hundred resources that are required to be hired. What it means is if you hire all of them, either your revenue goes up, which is great, but you don't see that in forecast. So there is a high possibility that your margin will tank. Yeah, I think that's the scenario we deal with. The second scenario we deal with is we want more resources, but you have incomplete requisitions. Yeah, basically what I mean is you want to hire a resource in terms of headcount or FTE, but you're not going and hiring FTEs, you're going and hiring skills. And most of the time I've seen the skills are not defined. And when you meet someone, interview someone, you say, this is not what I wanted, right? I think this is again common scenario you live with. So your cancellation of your, whatever you call the staffing requisitions, etc. Another pain we'll live with. Finally, what we'll live with is whatever you hired in the last, X months, Y years, most of them are sitting on bench, right? Which is leading to now someone will say, well, this bench is, why are they on bench for a long time? Because these skills are not matching with my demand. Isn't it? I think there are common scenarios which I'm just trying to narrate a day in a life of a workforce management professional. And therefore we need to sit back and think more end to end, which is what I hope, I think as we evolve, I just want this function to be a lot more strategic. When I say a lot more strategic, think of the big picture, think of end to end. If you're not talking to your sales teams and looking into pipeline, I think we should start doing that. I think more often than not, our function is very reactive. We are only looking at filling the requirements of yesterday, today. I think we should be today, if we are in September, I don't know how many companies are talking, we should be talking about October, November, December, January, February, March, because you do whatever you do, it takes 90, 100 days to hire a talent, and you run wherever, the next 3 months are done. we can keep talking and making PPT, Excel, explaining everything, but I think the game is, now we should be talking about the Jan, Feb, March, in my view. And that's what I'm hoping to see in my lifetime, that this function evolves to be more predictive and to be really, talking about a lot more futuristic stuff. Having said that, one thing which I would request all of you is there are a lot of metrics we deal with. And I've seen even what Mohit shared, and in the BPO industry or in the IT services industry, start relating what you do to ultimately few KPIs. What are the KPIs? Your CFO loves your revenue increase, your CFO loves your margin, your delivery team will love your client satisfaction, your HR leader will love about your attrition or people satisfaction. Just relate whatever you do to those. I think we sometimes kind of get lost into a lot of the metrics we deal with, but end of the day, those metrics may be great, but end of the day, the top 4 metrics for the company are not in line. I call them watermelon dashboards. Watermelon is all about green from outside. The more you go inside, it's red. So just look at what's the company headline. It's my top line, my bottom line. As long as it's moving in the right direction, this team is doing a good job. And if it's not going in the right direction, we can blame everyone else. We can blame the person who is hiring, raising the demand, etc., but we are party to the crime. I just want us to internalize thinking that we are playing the game what the CXO wants, which is increasing revenue, reducing cost. And in all this, one more thing what I've seen over a period of time is employee is lost in terms of, how do I say? Employee is just a number, FT number. But for this function, employee should be your customer. And if you think of the function, I think we are the function, and whichever way the companies define the function differently, WFM is different for different companies. But broadly, if you look at life of an employee in a company, an employee is interviewed, an employee joins, onboards, employee stays in the company, develops, gets skilled, upskilled, goes abroad, mobility, right, comes back, and they leave the company or they continue in the company. I'm sure each one of us touch the company at every point, right? Most of the companies define the workforce management in a way, it's touching all the touch points of the employee's life cycle. So therefore, it's very important for us to associate with employee's life cycle and therefore treat your employee as the customer. It's easier said than done because you will be forced by your respective teams, your SLAs, etc. Don't lose sight of employee. I feel really bad for people I know in the industry, a lot of us, and I think we are to blame. We have hired a lot of good talent from the universities last year. Yeah, and I'm being very open in this room. We have hired a lot of good talent. And I think most of us are dealing with the same situation. We are not able to deploy that talent. Yeah, I think this is this is all over the media. Everyone knows that. But I would sit back and think, what could we do differently next time? That we don't have this situation where we have people landing up in bench for a long time who have not even got a fair opportunity to prove themselves. Yeah, I think so. Just think about that. It's extremely important. We tend to dissociate these things from our job. And we say it's not me, it's someone else went and hired, someone else went and did that. But I think the more you think of your job in a broader sense, you will start kind of feeling that I could have done something better, I could have done something different. So I would really encourage all of you to do that. So having said that, guys, so I think in the way I look at our function, the variables that I deal with broadly are three variables, right? First is, I would say workforce comes to me the end, right? We call workforce management, that's the end. First is work. Second is workplace, and therefore workforce. And let me explain why. Work is, I think we need to sit back and say, in the roles we are, what is the work that is to be done? See, ultimately, it's not a rocket science. What is the work? Is the work repetitive? Is the work innovative? Is the work decision-making? Is the work following an SOP? I think we should start thinking about what we do in that terms. Once you understand what is the nature of the work that is to be done, yeah, it could be packets of work as my team from Wipro also shared. And so think about what is the work, first of all. What are we solving for? Whether you're building the airport, whether you're doing something in a call center, whether you are doing something to develop a project. I think one is understand what is the work. Second is add the variable of where is the workplace. The definition of workplace has changed completely. Is it work from home? Is it remote work? Is it work from office? Or what is it, right? It could be many answers. I think once you get the work and the workplace, and the reason I'm saying also workplace is I met an interesting company called Next Wealth. I was really shocked, and I'm not talking of low-end work. They gave me Gyan on AI and Gen AI, a rural delivery center. So the point I'm making is the workplace is also changing. The workforce, so therefore that leads me to workforce. And then you define as our role is basically ultimately it has to translate into an FTE with a skill, right? A headcount with a skill. So therefore I think work and workplace help us decide what's the workforce that we need to get in the company. Yeah, and the workforce is therefore, the other thing when I look at workforce, and I heard some of the comments in the brief time I was here, see guys, Gone are the days when people like me will come back and say, with 20 plus years experience, we have seen this, done that. It's not going to work. In fact, the longer tenure is a disadvantage. My frustration today, generally in life and around when I see, is we have people in the middle management interviewing freshers who are smarter than them, who know better things than them, and they are generally rejected by them because they are unable to relate to them. That's a generation gap. It's not a skill issue. My son tells that to me at home. My son is studying AI. When I ask him anything, he says, you don't get it. Yeah? So all I'm saying is this is a fact of life. I think the problem is we have this young generation coming out who is to me a digital native. Yeah? They are born with ChatGPT. They are born with AI. And we are trying to have a use case for Gen AI and use case for chat. So think of the disconnect. If I go and interview someone, I'm sure I will reject because he doesn't align with my thinking. So I think somewhere we need to think what can we change dramatically? How can we really have this young generation come in and without the resistance and the bottlenecks that we have created for them? And that can go away when actually when I started my career, late 90s, 2000s, NASSCOM, we used to have a saying that, what was it? 30-somethings will interview 20-somethings. What it meant was the age was 30 years, person is interviewing a person who is age 20 years. This is when the IT BPO industry was starting because of Y2K, and say that is the industry in India. That worked because the 30s and 20s were able to relate to each other, right? With a short generation gap. Today when I see a 40 someone is interviewing a 20 someone, I think the 20 years is a big gap for someone to catch up with the skills. The skill itself, half-life is shrinking. So I think it's basically our role to really remove that bottleneck and see how do we get more folks to say, hey, I don't know what I don't know. I think I trust if this person has graduated from the university with these credentials, I think it deserves a fair chance. So having said that, so I think workplace should define what should be the workforce. Maybe that's the model. If you can adapt, I think that will go a long way in deciding even what is gig. And gig, let me just add one more thing. It's more, I would say, the Indian media, when I look at it, they make gig look like a Swiggy or a Zomato. Yeah, I think hopefully it's time for our industry, and hopefully you saw the example from Wipro, and I'm trying to sell a bit here because I have to do my job even for Wipro. I think gig is something which can deliver high-end work. We need to change that narrative that somehow when I open a newspaper, they say this Swiggy gig worker did something on this road or something like that. I think gig is being under positioned in my view. Now, so some of the key learnings that I wanted to share over a period of time for this group personally. See guys, this is, whether you call it workforce management, people supply chain, talent, ultimately it's supply chain management. I was very happy to see Indigo person here, Adani Group is here. I think this supply chain is all across all industries. I worked in Mahindra & Mahindra on the shop floor. My biggest learning in life has been standing on the assembly line. Yeah, standing on the assembly line, I could see how unskilled workers were able to assemble a automobile by breaking the work into whatever 20, 25 workstations. And then we used to have a store, right? The store will decide what is the inventory. Then there used to be a manager who used to do production planning and control, right? So ultimately, if I go back to basics, what we do in workforce management is exactly the same. Our English may be different, our competencies may be different, our language may be different, but ultimately we are doing the same work. We are doing workforce planning, which is nothing but production planning and control. We are doing skill inventory or skill management, inventory control management. So the more we talk to automobile companies, the more we talk to the Amazons, like who are the ones who are doing bulk marketplaces, a lot to learn. So I think keep looking at supply chain as the area of focus. I think that's one key message I wanted to give you. The second key message is a lot of times workforce management people are doing a work. You may not like it, but doing the work of a middleman. I do feel that we should question our work. We should think, why can't my work be taken away by either a system that is automated, one. Second is, why am I doing this? Ultimately, you are matching a demand and supply, right? You're doing that. Why do I need? You have a shadi.com, which matches the bride and the groom. You have a Uber which matches your, the driver and the passenger, and everything is backend. So why can't workforce management be Uberized? I think we should ask that question humbly to ourselves. And I think we should be able to lead to solutions which can actually, eliminate or automate a lot of work we do by applying AI, etc. There are great platforms available today. I think just one of them Mohit shared. There are many more for each industry. I would encourage each one of you to at least, whether we implement or not, look at them. We are in Wipro currently looking at some of them, and I would encourage all of you also to, because that's good. That's good for us as a professional in this, and I will request even the GWFM forum to expose folks to those platforms that are coming up. Excellent platforms which match the skills, which provide AI insights, which tell the employee that, hey, based on your skills, this demand is open. You can apply here and you can create a talent marketplace. They're also able to say, based on your skill, you're falling short in this area, go and take this learning pathway, and then after X months, you can actually apply for this position. I think that's the nirvana of workforce management, talent supply chain. Finally, I think I would say skill. Skill is not at all mentioned in any forum, not at all. It's all lost between headcount and dollar. I think skill is the currency for future, right? So ultimately you are hiring for skills, you are training for skills, the clients are asking for skills. So whatever we are doing, I think we should introduce skill dimension in everything we do. We have embarked on that journey. We hope we will reach somewhere, but yes, I think to me skill is a word, skill-based compensation, right? The compensation has to be skill-based. As I said, tenure doesn't have a meaning. It doesn't mean anything that your bands are, because I have worked X number of years, I need to be in a higher band. I think if you have the skill, you're in a higher band. If you don't have the skill, I think you're not supposed to be in a higher band. So something I think that's what I think is what my final message is. I know I could go on and on. I hope this was at least insightful. So if I may kind of broadly summarize just for your understanding, the first one is supply chain, guys. I think to me, the more and more we understand supply chain from the manufacturing logistics companies, the best it is. Second is really look at Uberization. I love Uber. We had an Uber. Tatiana used to be in Uber. She moved on, but I think we should get Uber to share what they do in the back end. That's a great example. We should think, how can I get Uber? And then third is really make skilling as the currency in your organizations. Thank you so much. Wish you all great luck. And if there are any questions, I am available over lunch and I can spend some time. Thank you.